Biology students, we are currently in our cell energy unit. You guys should have wrapped up photosynthesis yesterday. We're going to move into cellular respiration today. Make sure that you have a good grasp and good understanding of photosynthesis first before you move into this process of cellular respiration. So know your diagram really well. Let me jump back a slide. Know this diagram really well and be able to fill this out like this without having, if you were just given this image, you should be able to fill out the 3 reactants that are going into photosynthesis, taking place in the middle here inside of the chloroplast, and the 2 products that you get as a result of photosynthesis. So make sure you know this diagram really well and be able to label it. All right, so moving into cellular respiration. So if you're following along using your notes outline, I would take that out now. So if you need to pause the video to do that, please do so. So as we move into this process of cellular respiration, we first need to understand the general formula for what's happening here. So respiration, if you were to describe it or define it, is breaking down of glucose to release energy. And that energy is then used by the cell. So it doesn't really release energy, it just creates energy for the cell. So if you look at the formula of cellular respiration, you have 2 reactants on the left side. So here's your glucose molecule plus your oxygen molecule. Chemical reaction takes place, that's what the arrow means. And then your 3 products are carbon dioxide, water, and energy. So cellular respiration is just a fancy term for breathing. This is actually what's happening. Glucose is being broken down in the presence of oxygen to release CO2 in which you breathe out, water in which you breathe out in water vapor, and then your cells gain energy in this process. So whenever you get sick or confused, come back to this general formula to help ground your understanding in this. Respiration does occur in all your cells. It can take place with or without oxygen. We'll be going into a separate set of notes, most likely tomorrow, dealing with the with or without oxygen pieces. They're called aerobic with oxygen, and anaerobic is a process without oxygen. But either way, cellular respiration can occur. It's used by plants and animals. Again, primary function is to convert glucose or break down glucose into energy that the cell can then use. Where does this occur? It occurs in the cytoplasm and primarily in the mitochondria. I'm going to break this process down into 3 main steps. The first step occurs in the cytoplasm. The next 2 steps occur in the mitochondria. The next image I'm going to show you may look daunting and confusing at first. I hope after we go through the information that it is a little more easily understood. And as always, please feel free to pause so you have time to write this stuff down. All right, so here is the general outline or image or diagram of what cellular respiration looks like. If you want to search up a different image, because this one does not work for you, that's fine. Google has plenty of them. This is just one I created that works well for me. So if you look at this diagram as a whole, you have this empty kind of white space on the outside that is representing cytoplasm. That's why it's labeled cytoplasm here. And you have this like jelly bean looking structure right here in gray. That is your mitochondria. So as far as your location, cytoplasm here, mitochondria is this jelly bean thing. The 3 main steps I'm going to break this down into include glycolysis, which is right here in the orange. Krebs cycle is step 2. Electron transport chain is step 3. So we're going to look at glycolysis first. So this first step out here, the orange. And I'll come back to this image over and over. So if you're following along in your notes, so step 1 is glycolysis, which simply means the breakdown of glucose. Where it occurs is out in the cytoplasm. As far as the reaction goes, the input is glucose. Again, that's that C6H12O6 molecule that's being broken down. And it is releasing pyruvate, which is an energy compound, some carbon, some energy in the form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate. ATP is energy, and 2 CO2 molecules. So going in, glucose, coming out, pyruvate, carbon, energy, and CO2. Coming back to our image here. So here's glycolysis occurring in the cytoplasm. It is releasing, so if you follow the arrows, it's releasing pyruvate, which is a compound that's going to energize and provide energy to the Krebs cycle. It is producing 2 ATP molecules of energy, and it is also producing some high electron molecules going up and over in this diagram. The electron carriers in this example, or in this step, is called NADH. So 3 things that are being released or given off. Pyruvate, which is used in the Krebs cycle, so step 2. 2 ATPs of energy down here, and NADH molecule over to the electron transport chain. That's step 1. Step 2 is going to be the Krebs cycle. So now we're moving from the cytoplasm into the mitochondria. In the Krebs cycle, that pyruvate that was created from glycolysis is used to provide energy for the Krebs cycle to run. Pyruvate breaks down carbon dioxide. Breaks down into carbon dioxide, 2 ATPs of energy, and then some more high energy molecules, 2 NADH and 2 FADH2s. So we say NADs and FADs, 2 NADs and FADs. Let me show you the diagram again for step 2. So here is now step 2, your Krebs cycle. Looking at what goes in to this reaction, we have pyruvate again coming in to power the cycle. We have oxygen going into the cycle, and we have 2 more ATPs being produced, as well as 2 high energy molecules also being sent over to the electron transport chain. So you have energy from the first step of glycolysis being sent over in the form of NADH, and then the Krebs cycle sends more energy molecules in the form of NADs and FADs over. Okay, releasing CO2 and energy. Our last and final step is going to be the electron transport chain. You'll notice still in the mitochondria for your location. So step 3. It's called the electron transport chain. In this chain, you are going to, and I'll look at that diagram again, but this is where you're going to produce the most amount of energy, the most amount of ATP molecules. Typically around 36 total ATP is produced, as well as some oxygen, as well as some water vapor that you breathe out. So here's your electron transport chain, again, taking in some oxygen, taking in all of that energy from the first 2 steps to release a little bit of water, as well as, it says there's a range, 28 to 32 ATP. So a lot of energy is produced from this electron transport chain, this 3rd step. If you were to add all of this ATP energy up, you'd get anywhere from 32 to 36 ATPs. So that's it. I mean, that's cellular respiration in a nutshell. It is a much more complex process than this, but I tried to simplify it for you and just lay it out in this diagram for you to easily understand. So just in summary, know the 2 locations. Cytoplasm is for the process of glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and the ETC or electron transport chain occurs in the mitochondria. Energy is being produced in all three steps, 2 ATP in glycolysis, 2 in the Krebs, and 28 to 32 in the electron transport chain to make a total of 32 to 36 ATPs produced. Energy is being released in the first 2 steps to be sent over to the electron transport chain. Krebs cycle releases CO2. Electron transport chain releases some water. It all starts, this entire process starts with the breakdown of glucose, which we store in our cells. I hope that makes sense to you. Again, make sure to go back, review, pause, make sure your notes are being taken well. This next slide is just a 10 question summary of what we just covered. It's a good way to just check your understanding and review what we just went over. So again, I would invite you to pause this slide and either write these down, review in your head, and then I will show you the answers on the next slide. So I'll give you just a couple seconds here to pause the video if you need to. And here would be the responses to those questions. All right, so please reach out to your teachers if you do not understand photosynthesis or cellular respiration. We have one more part of this unit, which includes aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration, which we'll be covering next. So, like I told you in the photosynthesis diagram, please make sure you understand the cellular respiration diagram as well, as far as where do the 3 steps occur, what's going in and what's coming out of each step. All right, have a good one.